Hey guys, so this is going to be a video on how to properly export stems from Cubase the way that your mixer is going to want it. So this session is set up how a typical demo or recording session would look. We got, most of the time these days, it's programmed drums, so we have that there. We have programmed bass as well, and then we have guitar amps, which are amp sims, and then all these drum effects, which are your explosions, tambourines, shakers, etc. Keys will be all of the synths and anything like synth, orchestral, yada yada. And then all the vocals are here. The first thing you want to start with is removing unnecessary tracks. So like this track is empty, so we'll just go ahead and get rid of that. Make sure the session's nice and clean. And then we are going to make sure that our name scheme is correct. So go through every single track here and make sure all your drum tracks have a D in front of them. All your bass tracks have a B in front of them. G for guitars. DFX have the DFX in front of them, etc. FX, and then all your vocals have the V. What that'll do is that when I get the files and I import them, everything's going to load like drums, bass, guitars, vocals. They're not going to all be scattered, randomly named different things. It saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of going back and forth. So the next thing we do is we're going to have to decide what tracks are stereo and what tracks are mono. Honestly, the safest way to do this is just to export everything stereo, and then if it needs to be collapsed to mono, I can do that on my end. So let's just do it that way. So if everything is set up correctly, we can do the whole song in one go, but we want to make sure everything is right first. So for example, bass, we want to make sure that this is the DI track. Make sure there's nothing on it. It just sounds like a bass DI. Make sure there's no amp on it, no nothing. Guitars, what I want you to do is go in, and if you go show only selected channels, make sure that on the rhythm guitars, there's nothing after the amp. So if you're doing like limiting or EQ, go ahead and remove that. On all the lead guitars, you can leave those as they are. So don't worry about those. Any of the DFX processing or keys or all that, you can leave them exactly how they are because that's how I want them. Vocals. Unless it's a specific, so these are green, just for an example here, these tracks are like effects tracks. So they're like little filtered out or like altar boy effects things. Here's what they sound like. So those are like throws and effects. That it's a specific effect that was produced by the producer to be that way. So effects like that, keep the processing on them, but anything that's like a main vocal or something that should be mixed from dry, we're gonna go ahead and take everything off unless you have auto-tune on. Leave auto-tune on them, but other than that, remove everything. The easiest way to do that in Cubase is to take a blank channel and hold Alt and drag the blank onto all these channels. You can also select these and then like go here and go no effect. If you have Q-Link on, that'll remove them, but it's actually almost the same amount of time to just do this really quick. Or, better yet, what you do is you take one vocal, you put it at 0, you put it at center, you're going to go copy first selected channel settings, click the first one. So what we have here, sometimes this will probably look like this for you, where you see all the different tracks, but the way we get to this is if you hold shift and you go to all the vocals and you go back into your mixer, come over here, you right click and go show only selected channels. That'll show only the vocals that we care about. So anyway, we take any blank vocal track and we go to copy first channel settings, click the first one, hold shift, go all the way to the end. Don't do the green ones that we were talking about. These are the ones we want to keep the effects on, but everything else that is just a normal vocal, we're going to paste settings. That way they're all going to be blank. Like I said, if you have auto-tune, make sure that you copy the auto-tune over as well. If they're already printed through auto-tune, obviously they're good to go. Now all our vocals are set and ready to be sent out for mixing. So the bus processing is fine because that's going to be its own track anyway. So all our vocals are set and good to go. All these are good to go. Our guitars, I think I skipped over this. We're going to take all the guitars, we're going to duplicate them, and this is how we're going to get our DIs without having to do it twice. All right, now that the guitar is duplicated, we're going to take them, we're going to put them up here, right click, go move selected tracks to new folder. Name that folder DI. And then we're going to take the rest of the guitars. We're going to put these in a new folder. Move selected tracks to new folder. We're going to call these amp. So what we're going to do here, you can leave these with the D. That's perfectly fine. Or even better yet, make that a DI. So go to each track and make that a DI. Just make sure that somewhere in the track name, however you name it, specify that this is a DI. So then on these tracks, we're going to go back here. We're going to go to show only selected channels again. We're going to center this. We're going to remove everything off of it. And we're going to do the same thing where we're going to do the same thing where we copy this channel and paste it onto this channel here. And now these are all blank. It's just going to be the guitar DI. So now what we have is we have our amps and we have our DIs all in one. At this point, we can select every single channel in the DAW. Like every single channel. We don't need the master bus or any of that, but honestly, for safety, let's just do it anyway. So give me every single channel in the entire DAW. We're gonna go File, Export, Audio Mixdown. Here, you wanna make sure you go to Multiple. Make sure this is checked. That's gonna select every single thing that you selected over here with Shift and then click. And then zero that out, go up here to the cog. If this is different, clear it out. Make sure this is on channel name. And then conflicts, doesn't really matter in this case. We're going to do all of these as stereo because I can collapse stereo to mono, but you can't take mono and get back stereo information. And then we're going to make sure we make a folder for this. And we're going to do it inside this folder. And we're going to call this stems export multitracks. Stems export tutorial multitracks. There we go. That'll work. Clear out anything that's in here. You can hit remove all from queue. Make sure you're at 44.1, 32-bit float. Interleaved is stereo. Inserts and strip. Do nothing. Add to queue. And then go play Mario Kart for like 10 minutes. Okay, our stems have exported. So what we're going to do is close all of this. And we're going to re-import that stuff and make sure it all worked correctly. This is the biggest thing I notice people don't do is double check stuff. They just export it and they're like, here you go. And then I'll get files that are weird. So we're going to double check them first before we send them off to anybody. So here's all of the stems that we just exported. I just hit Control A to select all of them. We're going to open. We're going to import all of them back into the session. And then we're going to double check that they are all correct and that we're not missing any audio. All of them imported. Make sure you don't click anything else while you're doing this. Just grab one that's highlighted, drag them all in, different tracks. And then turn your grid snap on. Doesn't really matter, but I'm just doing it to line everything up. And then you're going to take this little bar, turn it all the way up so that we see the audio and make sure we don't have any blank tracks. So here we see these 3 blank tracks. In this case, those are supposed to be blank. That's okay. There was nothing going to those. So you're just going to go through and make sure everything that should be in the song is in the song. Those 2 symbols weren't used in the song. That's okay. What is this? This swell, it exists there. That's perfectly fine. Looks like everything's good here. All our vocals came in. These are big files because they're 32-bit. That's why it's taking a little bit to load. And it looks like everything exported successfully and we're good to go. Before you send them off, make sure you solo those and listen as well. Make sure everything sounds correct. This kick sample also wasn't supposed to be there. The drums in this session are set up a little bit weird. But just make sure all the audio that is supposed to be getting sent out is correct and in these files. Once that's good and you've confirmed that, you can go ahead and delete all these because you don't need them. They're in the folder, and then we're going to export the MIDI. So in Cubase, MIDI is really easy. Just make sure that you don't have the track hidden or disabled or frozen. Make sure that they're here. And then from there, what you want to do is make sure, take the MIDI events and bring them all the way to 0. And make sure the MIDI events here also go to the end of the song. And this is just a way to safeguard that nothing gets goofed up. So you're going to go to the very first bit and go all the way down and just add 1 MIDI note. And that's going to make sure, what that does And this is especially a problem in like Pro Tools. Cubase is a little bit better about this. But what that's going to do is make sure that the MIDI event that I get is this length. I'm going to get this length of MIDI event. I'm not going to get this length of MIDI event, because what will sometimes happen is you get this, but it starts here. And then you're like, well, where do the drums go? And then I have to go figure it out. It's better to just export it that way, and then everything will come in the proper length of the song. And you want to do the same thing at the end. Just add a MIDI note at the very end of the event. It doesn't matter what note it is. I just like to do it at the very bottom because I know C-2 doesn't trigger anything. And then the same thing on the bass, and do this with if you have synths or orchestra or anything that's MIDI. And then MIDI in Cubase is really easy. You can be selected on any track. It doesn't matter. You're going to go up to File, Export, MIDI File. It's going to export one MIDI file. Ignore this. This is our folder that we're exporting to. And you're going to name this whatever the song is. So how to export stems MIDI. That's the name of our MIDI file. And then you can leave all this as is, hit OK. And it exports all of the MIDI data, so your drums, your bass, all of that into one MIDI file, which in Cubase, when you re-import that, you go up to Import, MIDI file, No, and then you select that. It'll bring everything in as multiple different tracks. So we got both of these in one MIDI file. And because we added that dot there, it loads correctly in the right spot, and then we can just glue these together and we're good to go. So then we're almost good to go. We want to make sure that in our folder, the easiest way to do this is in the folder name. Just rename the folder, whatever you had the song. You're going to add the BPM there. So 106 BPM. Or you can add it as a note document somewhere, or name one of the files, you know, the tempo. If there's tempo changes, make sure you include the tempo map. And then for your drums, make sure you include, so for example, we're using Get Good Drums here. The easiest way to do this is to go into Settings and Mappings and take a screenshot of this. So you could go to Snip, Snipping Tool, New, and then we're just going to screenshot the map here. And then we're going to save that into our folder, and this is going to be drum map. So we have our drum map, we have our MIDI, and then we have all of our audio files that are at 32-bit. Everything's named correctly. Now we can zip this up and ship it off, and we're good to go.